Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Happiness Hussy Presents. And today I have with me the amazing Gemma Serenity Gorkov. And I am super excited to share this conversation. It is intended to be an insightful conversation for anyone out there who has been hurt by love and who is ready to step into love yet again after those difficult times that they may have experienced. So welcome. And if we haven't met, I am Christy Holt and I call myself the Happiness Hussy. I am on a mission to spread happiness all across the world. And I do believe that we create our own happiness. It comes from within. It's not something that we need to seek outside of ourselves. It is truly a magical superpower that we have within. So I am on a mission to spread that message far and wide and to help people create the relationships that make them truly fucking happy. That is my mission. And I am going to introduce Gemma here, or invite in Gemma actually to introduce herself rather, and let you know a little bit about what she is up to.
Thank you so much, Christy. It's such an honor to share the space with you. And in a nutshell, I am Gemma Serenity Gorokov. I'm victorious over 15 years of domestic violence, meaning that toxic love, I know what it means. When I say domestic violence, I mean beaten, put down, raped, almost killed twice by strangulation. And I mean that also a repeat. I mean, one time 5 years, one time 10 years. So there is also something else here that I will be able to bring during this conversation about love again, rebuilding self-worth and confidence after relationship abuse. So this is also why we are very, very excited to bring you the best of our learned wisdom through the fire of life.
Yeah, and I always like to say that it's been my process of turning my mess into my message, because I've taken those difficult pieces of my journey, those challenges, those struggles, that mess, and I've transformed it into something that can actually, it helped me, and I know it can help and has helped other people as well. So before we dive all the way into the conversation, I just want to set the stage here for this conversation. This is intended to be a safe space. Okay. So this is intended to be, something that's supportive to you. And I want to also just state that if anything that we're sharing is triggering to you, that is not our intention for this to create triggers within you. And a loving and gentle reminder that when you are triggered, this is an invitation to look inward and see what it is bringing up for you to see, right? So if you want to chat about anything that we're sharing here, your confidentiality is of our utmost concern. And so I welcome you to reach out directly via DM to either myself or Gemma. Following the conversation, we would be thrilled to answer any questions that you have. And of course, you can pop them down below this video if you feel comfortable doing that. You are always welcome, and we absolutely would love your interaction, even if it's just to let us know something landed for you. You took a nugget out of today's conversation. That is going to help us know that we met our goal for today. We also know that there are so many different experiences and possibilities of experiences that you may have gone through. We can't address them all, and we won't be able to on this short conversation. But I want to emphasize that whatever you've been through, you didn't deserve any form of mistreatment. And the feelings and emotions that you have experienced around that are all completely valid. So I think, do you want to add anything else to the introductory topic, Gemma, that I might have missed?
I mean, you did not miss. I just want to emphasize when you feel triggered, when before you even notice it, you start just like rushing with tears and feeling hurt because you hear something that you have experienced and that you have not healed yet. That means that you are ready to release and let go of that. You are ready to heal that. You can either do it on your own, the way you usually do. You can also reach out to the person you usually reach out. You can also reach out to us. We understand, we respect, we love, and we welcome you.
Yeah. Thank you for that beautiful addition. Absolutely. We are here to serve you. And so if there's any way we can do that, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so I think we agreed we were going to start this conversation just with a brief discussion about abuse and its impact. Of course, this is the piece that could be potentially a little bit triggering for people. So I invite you to try on what we're sharing. If it doesn't fit, you don't have to take it with you. But if it does, you can, wear it around and see how it affects your life around you for a short while. You're welcome to, again, reach out if you need support in doing that. There are all kinds of abuse. Some of them are more obvious and some of them are more subtle. And that doesn't make them any less than just because they're more subtle, just because they're in more of a quote unquote gray area where a lot of people might not consider it abuse, doesn't make it any less traumatizing. So even things like being called names or guilt trips, gaslighting, trying to make you question your reality. Those are some of the subtle kinds of abuse, or even just stonewalling, which might even be the most subtle form of abuse yet, because the other person doesn't even appear that they're doing anything, but they're actually shutting you out emotionally. And so, of course, there are all kinds of different types of abuse, and the type of trauma that we endure isn't the only factor in this. It's actually much more important how we process and how we move through the trauma than the varying degree of the trauma itself. Meaning, someone may experience this gray area type abuse and not process or move through it and still be continuing to struggle and is reacting from this wounding. And someone who has experienced something, on a grander abusive scale that is more widely recognized. And this is not at all to minimize anyone's experience, but the way that they've processed and moved through it and healed from it, returned to their state of wholeness, has given them freedom rather than ongoing pain and suffering. I'm going to throw it over to you, Gemma, because I need to have a sip of coffee, and one of those.
So when we say verbal abuse, it's really when instead of talking to each other with utmost love and respect, we talk down to each other. We accuse each other. We nitpick each other. We actually insult each other, or we try to make the other react so that the other may actually feel the way we feel. That is already verbal abuse. When we think about emotional abuse, it's all those guilt trip, all those making the other feel obligated toward us or towards the relationship, or imposing that the other should feel a certain way without actually welcoming the other person's emotions. That is already emotional abuse. When we think about physical abuse, we don't think just like the case where you have like some picture or some awful description or almost dead, when you are really like being beaten and broken in your physicality. It really already means when you feel threatened in your physical integrity. That's already physical abuse. When you just got a slap on the face or elsewhere. When you just got pinched in a hidden place. I remember I got pinched so many times just here. It was like, what? And it didn't show, but when I was actually looking at it with the mirror, it was like such a huge bruise. It was like, wow. So yeah, not only did it hurt, but the truth was to bring the relationship to that kind of situation as a victim receiving that treatment, we are told that we are the origin of it by the abuser.
Yeah.
How amazing is that? So amazing in the term like not good at all.
Like, wow, amazing. Like, not good. Yeah.
Not good at all. So, I mean, physical abuse also goes sexual abuse, like forcing you to have sexual intercourse because you are married, because you are meant to, because you said yes one day. Doesn't mean that 10 years later, you still say yes. Doesn't mean that you're still in love. Doesn't mean that you want that level of connection. And then you feel like, whoa, but if I don't,
Oh,
he or
the
she
mood.
is going to actually go elsewhere and then cheat on me. So I must actually do my duty. That is sexual abuse too.
Yeah. I recently did an episode on that topic, and not even so much about the extreme pieces of it, but even just the concept of the obligation in the bedroom. Like when sex starts like feeling like a chore, you're already entering the first states of this, right? Where you don't feel safe to say no. That is a problem because, and I want to go back to and say that someone can definitely abuse you without ever laying a hand on you, right? Even from a physical perspective, like you said, it could be a raised fist where you are feeling the effects of that threat, even if they didn't follow through with the actual hitting or punching you, right? But if someone is, making themselves very big and threatening in an attempt to make you feel very small, yeah, that's abuse, even if they don't actually physically harm you.
Yeah. About that, one of the things I have experienced was in my first relationship was that in the burst of anger, not only his fist was there, but then he actually broke the wall
Mm,
just on the side of my head, threatening, telling me next time it's your head.
yeah.
You can imagine the level of fear
Yeah.
it actually creates. And at the same time, the level of submission, because you feel, and all of that really let me tell you, it's all a big lie. It's all a big lie. Does it mean you are never going to be hit? No, it doesn't really mean that. It means that it's all you agree to believe something that feels so real. It's not, because if you actually decide to leave that relationship, to not hold on to that commitment, to drop the mic, drop the ball, drop the relationship, like choose to stop it. You can actually. Many of us, we did that and it worked. A tiny percentage of us did that and it did not end well. But it's really a handful of people who actually got not only caught, but sometimes died in those circumstances. Most of the people who actually leave that kind of relationship are fine and can rise after abusive and toxic love,
I mean,
which is not.
there's so much stories in our minds when we're in it, because not only often is the other person feeding those stories and helping you to fabricate additional stories about how you're not worthy of love and how you're the problem and how you're wrong, how you're crazy, how you're fill in the blank, whatever they're telling you to bring you down. That's not the truth. The truth is you are actually already whole. You are actually completely worthy of love simply because you exist. You are more than good enough for the right people. And you're not asking too fucking much to be loved and accepted for who you are, because someone out there is waiting for you to love and accept you exactly as you are, because you are the perfect person for them, and not perfect by like society standards of like striving to be perfect, but like the perfect match, the perfect fit, the person who they love regardless of your perceived flaws and weaknesses, because it makes you human. And so all of this to say, we don't want to stay stuck in the past and the traumas and the hurts and the things that we have been in. That keeps us like really stuck having an experience of being the victim. And it's not to say that you weren't victimized. Again, you didn't deserve to be mistreated in any way, shape, or form. And you deserve to be let free. You deserve to set yourself free from the ongoing pain and suffering that is continuing long after maybe the incident that you might have endured, or incidents, as many of us would say. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was years and years. And that's why our self-worth can end up so low, because it is this gentle manipulation. And especially, a lot of people speak about narcissists And I don't want to dive down a rabbit hole of talking about narcissists. I actually think we all tend to have narcissistic behaviors from time to time and on a spectrum. It's part of our humanity because we're all whole. We have the light and the dark. And people who have a tendency to live in that and act in narcissistic ways more often can be very sneaky, right? They can really build you up to cut you down, right? They can give you extra rope and then use it to hang you in a way. Facebook, don't take that the wrong way, please. Facebook people, you know what I mean? It's a symbol, right? It is giving you something only to take it away from you. And that can be so detrimental to our self-worth. So I want to move on here because obviously staying in this icky bits doesn't serve us. We want you to move from victim to victorious. Did you have something to add though, Gemma, before we make that leap?
Yes, but just like super, super short. Just think about something. Who is that person who is labeling you so bad? Where does it come from? Oh, that person who is like behaving so erratically. Okay, so does this perspective really matters and really define you? The truth is that you are the only one allowed to define yourself because you have the power to choose who you are. Claim back your power to choose for yourself. Do not rely on other people to tell you who you are.
1,000%. Great addition because, you're the only one in your meat suit. So you're the only one who knows what feels good for you, who knows who you really truly are. And so often we let other people, we've been conditioned to let other people tell us who we are probably our whole lives. And it's been necessary in some cases for our survival. And so it's a pattern and a habit, but it doesn't serve us in all cases. And so if we find ourselves slipping into this bad habit of trusting other people over ourselves, there's something that we can do to take our power back and to recognize that hurt people, as they say. And I will say that happy people do not go around slinging hurtful insults or criticisms. They don't attack other people. They don't try and bring other people down. They don't try and guilt people. They don't make people feel shameful about themselves. They don't intentionally try and embarrass someone else. They don't physically want to harm. Happy people have no need or desire to do that. Happy people encourage people. They inspire people. They lift them up. They tell them what's great about them. They tell people that they're loved. So if you're hearing a message to the contrary, you're hearing it from someone who is hurting so badly on the inside. And recognizing that this is actually their pain spilling over doesn't make it okay. Again, circling back to that, because I don't want to rationalize poor behavior at any point in time. This isn't about that. But it is about seeing and having awareness of what's really going on, because awareness is power, right? When you see things differently, you can do things differently. And so when you start to see this person is really hurting, you just start to take their words from that perspective. You start to have a little bit more understanding about why they're saying what they're saying. And you can create a little bit more distance between what they're saying and what you're taking in as belief about yourself. This is ultimately leaning into a little bit more compassion, both for them, but also more importantly, because you're the only one who can change yourself. Self-compassion is, to me, like the catalyst to all kinds of transformation. Whether you've been hurt before or not, this self-compassion is a complete game changer.
It really is. When you go with self-compassion, that really say, okay, first of all, just definition. Compassion and empathy is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Passion is understanding the other person's emotion and providing a safe space to hold it and to allow it to dissipate. Empathy is feeling the other person's emotion to the point of it hurting you and not being so sure if it is your emotions or the other person's emotion. It is not a place of support, it's a place of suffering when you feel empathetic, and it's a place of love and care when you go with compassion. So when we say self-compassion, that means give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
You're
Gosh, like
good.
you deserve it, right? And if you aren't going to give yourself grace, which you are the only person who really truly you can count on, like you're wherever you go, there you are, right? You are literally your own sidekick, can't get rid of yourself. And what if you just started to treat yourself with the same love and compassion and acceptance that you treat your best friend? What if you could treat yourself with the same love and compassion and acceptance that you give to your children, if you have children, right? How much different would your life be if you let yourself off the fucking hook and just said, I'm human too? And I think so many times we believe, and we've been led to believe, and we've been conditioned to believe that guilt or shame is a good motivator for change. And that's complete bullshit. I'm calling that out right now, because what that does is actually keep you trapped in and stuck in the suffering, and it doesn't actually motivate you. Compassion allows you to, instead of wallowing with your past mistakes, because that's what the guilt and shame does, it keeps you tethered to your past instead of allowing you freedom to choose differently now. The guilt and shame just keeps you stuck, focused on what you did wrong. And the problem is hindsight's 2020. So we can always find something where we coulda, woulda, shoulda done something a little bit differently. And so we can live our whole lives sucked into the guilt and shame spiral of coulda, woulda, shoulda. And yet, as I said earlier, when we see things differently, we can do things differently. So instead of judging ourselves for not seeing it differently then, we can applaud ourselves for seeing it differently now. And we can take that, inspire ourselves, and empower ourselves to move forward and to do something differently starting now, which releases that tether, that chain of being stuck to the suffering, and allows us to move forward and create something that actually feels really good for us. Like that is so, so powerful.
And from a scientific perspective, there is a work of David Hawkins that really shows and measure the level of vibrations, the vibrational frequency of all the emotions. And I can tell you, shame is the lowest emotion you can feel. It's the rock bottom,
Yeah.
because it actually keeps you there. And then a tiny little bit above, there is guilt, which is still completely rock bottom. So how do you want to reach the level of love, happiness, transformation, and bliss when you are at the rock bottom? You have to actually spiral up toward acceptance, towards even pride, but that is still not high enough, towards neutrality. Okay, now we start to actually go back in the positive, so that finally you can have some joy and some peace and some forgiveness and some grace, and finally some inner love. And because you end up loving yourself in a divine way, that allows you to love others and to recognize when it is not true love, but actually attachment in a way that is unhealthy.
Absolutely. And a lot of people talk about whether they can find love when they're still healing, or whether they're worthy of love, they're broken, all of these sorts of things. And a lot of people seem to have potentially this belief that they're not lovable until they love themselves. And so I want to just talk to this, because I think there is like a nugget of truth in there. And then there's also sort of like another piece to the puzzle. It's like a nuanced discussion. So can you feel loved when you don't love yourself? Yes. Other people can love you and you're worthy of that love. So that's not the problem. But what happens when you don't love yourself is that you're not actually open to receive the fullness of the experience of love. So they can love you unconditionally, and you can still be over here saying like, well, like they must be delusional if they think that I'm that great. And you can be telling yourselves a whole lot of contrary information. So yes, they can love you. They can even unconditionally love and accept you, but can you receive it? When you don't believe it's fucking true for yourself, you have a barricade, which doesn't allow the full extent of the other's love to come in. So some people out there will have been fortunate enough to find someone who has loved them and accepted them as they were in their perceived quote unquote broken state, which you're not. But I have been there and I have felt that. So I'm saying that from the perspective of feeling like someone who's broken. And you still won't be able to receive it all. So this is where this invitation to really step into, a self-awareness, to really get to understand what's going on under the surface, because what we don't know what we don't know. But when we know, we can see things differently, we can do things differently. So this is us standing in our power by actually looking at what's there, right? Triggers and all, or just whatever is coming up for us to look at and see, well, how can I use this? What knowledge is there for me? Because there's so much power. We can know things, but when we live it and we experience it and we embody it and then we move forward and we do something differently, that's wisdom. And so this is an invitation to step into your wisdom era, if you will, and take all of that information, give yourself the grace and compassion for not knowing what you didn't know before, because now you know, and now you can choose things differently. And when you move forward in a space of love, like unconditional love and acceptance for yourself, this compassion and this grace, knowing you are already enough, knowing you are already whole, you realize that there's not as much healing work to be done, right? It's not this like hamster wheel of endless healing and fixing and trying to put yourself back together. You are coming from this perspective that is done. You're already whole. You're already worthy. You don't have to rebuild that. You already have it. It's recognizing that you already have it that gives you this power. And when you do that, now you can set about growing and evolving and learning and putting that learning into practice so that it becomes embodied wisdom. It can help you to communicate more clearly with other people because, hey, when you know what's you and what you want, you can communicate that. It helps you to set more clear boundaries, right? Which are ultimately an invitation into deeper commitment and deeper connection is the word I was looking for with you. And it can allow you to break free of sort of that pattern of, like, you touched on the empathy piece. And I think that empaths will really get stuck in this space from time to time where they don't know what's theirs and what's not. And so it becomes this jumble of emotions and you can't quite figure your fucking way out of it. You just feel shitty all the time because people around you feel shitty. And the more you know yourself, the more you know what's you, what is your natural state and what belongs to you. And that helps you to not get sucked in by what's not you, right? So you can then move from feeling so strongly the feelings of other people as if they're yours and you're not sure, to having compassion and understanding for what they're going through, but not taking it on for yourself. Okay, I'm going to take a breath now. Gemma, take it away.
Gosh, yes. Okay. So, sorry, I love it. I love it. So when we just think about those boundaries in healing and self-protection, it doesn't mean that you are going to request and put an ultimatum because you need that time for yourself. No, this is not what it means. What it actually means is, whoa, if I spread myself too thin, if I compromise on my values, I will not be in a place where I can actually be a partner in this relationship. I will actually lose my own power. So boundaries, like setting healthy boundaries in a healthy relationship, that just means, hold on a second, right now, you overstepped me, you have overridden my desire to stay private, as an example. You just overshared what I wanted to keep private. But instead of going all hang up and all angry about that and requesting an ultimatum and things like that, no, You absolutely state, okay, you have overshared. You did not respect my privacy.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit betrayed, but it doesn't mean that you betrayed me. It means that I don't feel comfortable. And that is stating a boundary. How will the other person respond to that? Naturally, in a healthy relationship, the other person will say, oops, I'm so sorry. Oh my, I was not aware of that limit. Sure, okay. How do you want to take it from there? I'm ready to do anything, or to say, or maybe to correct, whatever, to make you whole again. And that would be a healthy response. If the response is, well, whatever, you are always da 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 da, and
You're
really
too
goes
sensitive.
exactly, or whatever it is, like slapping a negative label on you because whatever,
Yeah.
that is the unhealthy, unhealed response from a not a good place. And that shows already a dysfunctional, not respectful relationship. So when we see boundaries, it's really state what you allow and what you don't. State what you like and what you dislike. State that you say no. And the truth is that when you dare to say no, you actually open up the conversation to a healthy person. And if the response to a clear boundary is stating, no, I don't want to have sex tonight. No, I don't feel like it. If that generates an entire argument, that means that the other person is not ready to love you for you, but is needing sex for themselves and needing to have it from you so that they are not called cheater, right? And you are allowed to get out of that deadlock. You don't have to go there. You don't have to play that. You do not have to. And if that means breaking the relationship, well, so be it. Okay, you'll manage afterward, and you'll find ways to mend your broken heart for a moment to actually finally feel good and finally feel free, if needs be. So do not fear that you're going to lose the other person by putting boundaries. Know that you are going to win your own heart and your own values and your own happiness by putting boundaries. Where you feel you must, not anywhere, where you feel that that is actually not feeling good. All right? So,
Yeah. So good. And I think too, like when we have these expectations attached to our boundaries, we run into problems, right? And I have a whole conversation about this on my podcast too, because a lot of times we think it's a boundary. We think that by expressing that I don't like when you do this is setting a boundary, when in fact, that's actually just stating your preference. And when you have an attached expectation that, well, they're obviously going to just do what you said is your preference, right? And then they don't. I just want to highlight this on the flip side, because this could be you perpetrating unhealthy patterns for yourself. And where you think you might be setting a boundary is merely stating an opinion or setting a preference. And then you're hurting yourself. Ask me how I know I've done this too. Hurt myself by placing expectation on the other person to comply. And yet we both deserve to be free. Do we not? Do we not all deserve to have free will and to choose and express ourselves in the way that feels best for us? We're the only ones in our meat suit. And so when we start putting expectations on other people, we're doing the same thing we don't want them to do to us. And again, I state this so that we can all be aware that boundaries are really this invitation into deeper, meaningful connection, where you're inviting them to see those parts of you, not just your preferences and your opinions, not just surface level stuff where you wish they would just do what you said, but to enter into deeper conversation. And I'll say with my current partner, we had a conversation very early in our relationship where we were both having our boundaries. crossed by one another as we were just trying to navigate and figure out how things go. And I will say that it's very refreshing to have a healthy boundary conversation with someone who actually genuinely wants to make things work, who is in a state of wholeness, like two whole people coming together. I'm telling you, it's magic. So while
Brilliant.
I said, this is what I need, right? This is my need at this time. And he couldn't necessarily say, like, no problem, go ahead, do that. That doesn't bother me. That wasn't the case. What I needed was a conflict for him. I needed to still see other people early on in our relationship because I wasn't ready to go into a deep committed relationship. And yet on his side, that brought trust into the equation for him, right? So it wasn't an easy, absolutely, you need that, go ahead. It was, I see you. I can understand where you're coming from, and I can totally understand that you need to do that. And this is my need. And so we had this very long conversation looking at, like, okay, well, this is my need, and it seems to maybe conflict a little bit with your need, but how can we come together and make it work? And that's, the process of healthy boundary setting when both people are committed to remaining wholly in themselves and working together. And so I will say that not every no to a boundary turns out in an unhealthy way. There is a healthy way even to navigate those difficult conversations where it's not just an easy yes. And sometimes it takes time to figure out what that's going to look like. It wasn't like, oh, problem solved in one conversation. It was a, let's take it from here. How do we navigate? What's our next steps? Can we make this work? Maybe. Like, let's just try. Let's take the next steps, and we'll stay in communication about it. To me, that is two whole people having a conversation about what each individual needs in order to come together. And I think that's pretty magical when we can find that.
It's a very interesting example that you just gave. I'm just thinking of it from both perspectives.
Yeah.
Like looking, you have one of the person who start to date, start to mingle, start to hang out, feel some level of attachment and some level of attraction for sure, and is not committed yet, meaning that the trust is into freedom of having the right to see other people and to also mingle and hang out with others and to maybe also feel some level of attraction with others. And you have the other party who is already more advanced in this specific relationship and now has to deal with another level. Okay, am I going to trust that it is as deep and committed as I am committed, or do I have to actually release my expectation of a committed relationship by saying, no, let's just have a casual friends with benefits kind of situation, which is not a committed one? Whoa, but then how do you connect those two who like each other very much, almost love each other, I would say, but not fully completely the same way and not coming from the same perspective? Interesting situation to actually deal with emotions, deal with boundaries, deal with expectation in a healthy relationship. Decide what you both want this relationship to be, because at the end of the day, the big question in the room is, what do you want our relationship to be? Do we want the same thing? Are we in the same direction? Are we aligned? Is this still so valid tomorrow? Will you feel the same way?
So many pieces to the puzzle, right? And what is actually ironic is that coming out of that conversation, that level of being seen and accepted and allowed to be myself drew me all the more to him. His complete unattachment to the outcome. He knew he was going to be okay, whether I said yes or no, or whether I went off with someone else. He didn't need me to complete him. He wasn't insecure in that. He knew that if this was meant to be, we were going to find a way to make it be. And if it wasn't, that he was going to be okay too. And so this is part of, and from my side, it was the same thing, right? If it was meant to be, and honestly, this conversation really ratcheted it up for me and made me see how big of a heart he has, how much love and compassion he held, and the kindness in which we had this difficult conversation opened the door to seeing what was truly possible. And so that actually, while a very difficult conversation, and it didn't get like instant resolution, I felt so much better about what we were building. And it actually brought me closer to that ultimate decision of choosing him in the end. So to wrap that all up in a neat little bow to bring it together, having an understanding of our boundaries and what we want, what we need, what a successful relationship will look like for us is the foundation. We can't go dating people with the expectation of just stumbling upon it. We need, if we want to come to a relationship or a potential relationship as someone who is not so attached to the other person that we end up getting hurt before anything can develop, or we have, feelings that get in the way of us having, the outcomes that we actually want. We can get sucked into repeating patterns and habits quite easily when we're letting emotions run the show. And often this comes when we don't know what it is that we clearly want. And so having this really clear picture of like, what will a successful relationship look like is a game changer. You've got to know what healthy patterns look like. You've got to understand how to communicate in a healthy way with one another. You've got to recognize the signs of the red flags and the abuse patterns and the early signs that there will be further abuse built. If there's any signs, I'm just going to say right now, run, because it will not get better. It will get worse. So just putting that in there. But until we're clear about what it is going to look like for us, we can end up fumbling around in the dark, not even recognizing it when we see what would actually be perfect for us. And so getting a bit of clarity, and I don't mean that he's tall, dark, and handsome. That's not the clarity I'm talking about. I'm not talking about your vision board version of a man who's going to sweep in and save the day. I'm talking about your experience. How will you experience one another? How will you communicate with one another? How will you feel when you're communicating with one another? How will you feel when you're making love with one another? Will you feel safe with this person at all times? Will you be able to express yourself freely, authentically, unapologetically as yourself? Because if not, you're settling, and it's just not the right place for you with that person. And so having this clarity of what will that look and feel like so that you know it when you experience it is really helpful. And all that to say then also in the dating phase, if you stop putting so much pressure on yourself to find the one and instead use it as an opportunity to find the one, which is you, right? And use these external projections of your experience to test. Oh, that didn't feel so good. And instead of going, well, I don't know about that, like maybe we can just make that work. No, stop trying to take what doesn't work and make it work. Use it to remind you that's just not it. Next. And you will move along. You will stay open and you will be available then when the right person comes into your life. You'll see them, you'll recognize them, you'll feel it, and you'll know it that much more easily. And I'm not saying know it like don't have any discernment and jump in blind because you have a feeling at the start. Proceed with caution, right? Have some of these conversations. Be yourself first and foremost, because the right person will love and accept you exactly as you are. They won't expect you to change. They won't expect you to be different. They won't expect you to be quiet. And they won't try and make you feel like who you are is not good enough.
It is paramount what you are sharing here. And that actually leads us to reconnecting with our inner strengths and wholeness. That means recognizing that we are inherently,
Yes.
as human beings, sons and daughters of a God of love, of an energy of loving kindness, of a ever-expanding, lush universe. We are part of that.
Yes.
So as we are that in our deepest, truest self, we are inherently whole and
Mhm.
capable. Entire being whole, entire being and capable. So I would suggest the following things. There is an exercise that we can do together, like I would say a 7 minutes exercise. It's a meditation to connect with your inner strength and wisdom. Do you want to lead it or do I lead it? How do you want to go
Oh,
about that?
I don't mind leading a quick visualization. And
Okay.
if you are watching this and you're not in a space to close down your eyes, maybe you're listening while you're driving, come back. Okay. Don't close your eyes unless you're in the right space to do that. The intention here is to get into a bit of a relaxed state. So obviously operating a vehicle is a bad idea. So if you are watching this and you need to come back, that's totally okay. But if you're watching us and you can set aside the next, I don't even know if it'll be 5 minutes. We'll try and keep it pretty brief. Just want to take you to a place where you can connect with the power that you have within yourself so that you can stop seeking for this power in the wrong places, which are all the places outside of yourself. So you can stop seeking love from another person and instead source it from within and open up, like I said earlier, the possibility of receiving and experiencing the depth of that love from someone else. So I will invite you to close down your eyes if you're in a safe space to do so. Settle into your seat, get comfortable here. I'm going to take 3 nice, slow, deep breaths together. Inhaling through the nose, nice and slowly. Exhaling through the mouth at your own pace. With each of these 3 breaths, trying to just relax into a slower paced breath. Maybe extending the inhale, extending the exhale. One more nice deep breath. And as you exhale, just release everything that no longer serves. Let go of the bullshit, let go of the stories, let go of the line, the beliefs that you're not good enough. Let go of the idea that you're not worthy. Just set it down. So for a few moments, we're just going to try something on. We're going to connect in with our heart so that we can finally find the true source of love. And if you'd like, you can place a hand over your heart and imagine that you are breathing directly in and out of your heart space for a moment, just allowing the breath to flow in and out through your heart. And I want you to bring to mind, imagine, visualize, remember a time where you felt truly loved. Now, this could be a moment where you looked deep into your pet's eyes. It could be holding your child for the first time. It could be a happy moment that you shared with anyone or even with yourself in a moment where you felt truly connected to yourself. I feel this way a lot in nature. In any case, just allowing yourself to bring that time to mind. See yourself there in that moment where you felt this deep love. And then I invite you to focus on the sensation of love. Can you locate it in your physical being? There's no right or wrong answer here, but can you feel it in your body? Allow yourself just to deepen and soften into this feeling of love. Feel this sensation of love wrapping you in its arms. And with your awareness on this sensation of love that you're feeling within yourself. Can you observe that there is no one else involved in this experience that you're having of love? It's truly coming from within you, right here, right now. You have created this experience. This is you calling upon your inner power, the love that is essentially the energy that allows you to move, to be, to create. And it is this love that is yours to give. Taking just a couple of deep breaths, really allow the sensation of love to land within you. And we'll slowly start to come back, maybe just wiggling the fingers or the toes. Maybe taking another deep breath, moving in whatever way feels really good for you. When you're ready, slowly opening those eyes and coming back into this now moment, recognizing that the love that you've been seeking has been within you all of this time. And I invite you to carry it with you, to take it with you throughout the rest of the day, the rest of the week, into whatever is next for you in life. And just remember that this power lies within you and that you can create it at any time that you choose to.
Thank you, Christy.
Mhm.
Perception that we are the one giving love and giving affection and giving this touch to ourselves is absolutely key in trusting that we are safe, that we are allowed to be ourselves, and that we are the one who define ourselves. And when we define ourselves based on love, that means that we stop taking on and trying labels that other people may have actually slapped on us. So one of the things I truly encourage you to do is to write down or record or share one way or another your best way of expression. You know better than anybody what works for you, but express your experience in one way or another to fully, completely lock in that feeling. There is something that is happening deep in your being, is that when you understand, when you internalize a beautiful feeling such as love, self-love, and then you try to teach it, or you don't try, you actually do. You teach it, or you say it, or you write it, or you express it with music, with art, or just with loving another person you don't know by helping that person the way you can, when you can, because you can, right? Those expression, those creative expression will allow you to reinforce on a somatic level, meaning in your body, in your cellular memory, that self-love is good and that you can give it to yourself, meaning also you don't need others to love you in order for you to feel love and to give love.
You have it all. And for anybody out there who maybe is a little bit like me, where if you give me two options, I get distracted and I can't choose any of them. I'm going to give you a very simple option that you can do, something really practical that you can do to take this feeling of love and really cement it. Because just as Gemma said, there is importance in solidifying it in your brain by taking action, right? Not just thinking about it. That's the knowledge, but we want this to become embodied wisdom and something that you experience and take with you. So my invitation to you is to write yourself a love letter. Alternatively, if writing is not your jam, although writing is probably superior here, I totally get it because I'm not a big like physical on paper writer, but that does do something actually to slow down your brain to process and think through the words. So it does connect on a deeper level. Take that with what the grain of salt that you will. And if speaking it is a better option for you, go ahead and do a voice memo, record yourself, loving on yourself, write yourself a love letter. And if you need to, put your brain in a state of mind, you can imagine that this is the ideal love letter that you would like to receive from someone else. Okay. So write yourself a love letter or speak yourself a love letter. That's my invitation for you to like really lock in this feeling of love within and own it, because you're worthy of it. You deserve it. And you'll feel so much better when you operate from this, which is your intended state, by the way, to be in a state of love and peace and joy and happiness. So before we wrap up, I want to just remind you that while this is a lot of deep inner work that is required to process and heal and move through past traumas, and I don't proclaim to know where any of you are at on this process or through this journey, I will say that although it's your work, you don't have to do it alone. And so if you are challenged to get through it and you're struggling to get through it on your own, I want to invite you to reach out and seek support, whether that be from us or a trusted therapist or someone in your life, a coach, mentor, healer that speaks to you and connects with you. Most important is that you connect with someone who makes you feel safe, right? This is going to be really crucial as you try to move through it. If you are not feeling safe with them, if you don't feel like you can trust them, it's going to create additional resistance, which will prevent you from moving through it. So it's really important that you find someone that you feel that you can connect with wholly, completely, authentically yourself, because that is the catalyst to healing, is to actually put yourself out there, to be seen, to be heard. This is how we can experience that deep level of healing that most of us are seeking. And so with that, I will just let you know that I have a number of courses and I have one-to-one mentorship options. And so if you want to reach out to me, I would be happy to look at what options would fit best based on where you're at in your journey. My approach is one for whole ass humans. And I like to meet people wherever they are at and serve them in a way that meets their needs wherever possible. And if it's not a good fit, I have a ton of amazing people in my network, just depending on what you're going through specifically, that I could refer you to. So if it feels like a fit for you, or you just like to have a conversation, no obligation, reach out, let's chat. And if one of my offerings are a fit, I will share what that might look like for you. And I know that Gemma has something to share as well.
Indeed. And I have explored a lot of Christie's material that she has already published and put out there for you. And I can tell you, it is beautiful. It inspires trust. And she also has a lot of free material out there that are absolutely amazing and fun to try on. I have tried a few of those and I truly love them. It's special, it's unique, it's completely Christie. And when you connect with that, it's so much fun to actually unstuck yourself, which is, by the way, the title of her book that you see behind her. So yes, if you are wondering about your life, but not ready to commit to anything yet, I invite you to subscribe and share one of the talk shows I'm hosting that is called Real Talk, Real Women, Breaking the Silence Around Abuse. Christie was a guest 2 times on it, and the last time pretty recently, last month. So make sure to connect to that specific one. I'm going to say it again. Real Talk, Real Women, Breaking the Silence Around Abuse. you will recognize my face because I just took a picture of me.
And
as
we'll put the links below. Okay. We'll
yeah.
put all the links below for you.
So that is the point, to actually get inspiration, get guidance, get many different people. We have already published 190 episodes and counting. We are on for 2 years and we have already reached more than 2 million downloads, meaning you are not alone watching and downloading and listening to it. But what matters is that when you do not feel ready to show up and to raise your hand, you can do it just for yourself, anonymously. Now, when you want to actually connect to a community, I'm putting together 3 communities at that moment in time. Now, one of those is self-mastery, which will encompass self-help, self-healing, all that things that allows you to connect deeper with yourself and to claim back your identity. The middle ground is all about your relationship with money, with prosperity, with resources, because that too oftentimes get completely crushed and distorted when you are experiencing a after abuse new life and you try to rise after abuse. It's not always easy, and I would say it's not easy at all. And there are many steps you can take to actually rebuild trust for yourself. So we have also that middle ground community, and the biggest community is, the highest community is all about leadership, because once you are healed, you have a great relationship with all resources, money, time, people, and everything around you. Now you can actually lead a team. And when you lead a team, you leverage so much bigger goals, right? So these are my 2 big offers. And of course, I have many other ideas, so just reach out.
Absolutely. So I just popped the link for my podcast in the chat. It will also, as soon as we're finished here, Gemma, if you want to put any links in the comments, that way I'll collect them all and make sure that for the YouTube version of this video, we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
As we wrap up, I just want to remind you that the most important relationship that you are ever going to have is the one that you have with yourself. And so as we part ways for today, as you consider seeking love again, I invite you to try on the idea of finding first that love within yourself, because it will open you up to an entirely different experience of love when it comes to creating relationships with someone else. I do recommend that you go ahead and check out, I have a multitude of support resources on my podcast, Create Your Happy. Gemma has, like she said, a multitude of resources on her podcast, Real Talk, Real Women. We're going to put all the links for all the things down in the show notes below. And if you would like to message either one of us, I invite you to reach out through our websites, through direct messenger here on Facebook, if you're watching live on Facebook. Your messages are confidential. We want you to know that you are in a safe space, and we would love to point you at more directly at the resources that will help you wherever you're starting today. So while I have a lot of episodes, and Gemma has a ton of episodes, if you want to reach out, we would be happy to provide you with specific episodes that would be tailored to whatever you're going through right now. So please do not hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback for us on this conversation, we welcome you to let us know how you found this. And I just want to let you know how much you truly are loved. You are so, so loved, and you are so, so worthy. And I hope that if nothing else, you take that little nugget of wisdom with you into your next steps for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. I love you. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we?
Thank you.